Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon to everyone who's able to attend today's webinar. My name is Robert Kruger. I am with the Communications Board, and we are an organization that provides affordable and accessible professional development for communicators and marketing professionals, no matter where you're located at. So we have a series of online programs, courses, and workshops throughout the calendar year. You can check us out at communicationsboard.org. We plan to be posting our spring programming in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out for that. With that said, I want to go ahead and jump right into today's webinar. We're very excited for this. We're excited for the partnership with the West Virginia University's Reed College of Media, online programs. They've been a great partner over the years. I think we first started partnering with them probably 3 or 4 years ago when we used to do Comms Fest, which was at one time was a week-long online communications festival. Now we've transitioned that to a free webinar series, but we're very excited to have them as partners today. So, and for this topic, looking ahead for the trends and our predictions for marketing in 2024. So without further ado, let me introduce today's MC discussion leader, Bonnie Harris with Wax Marketing. So Bonnie, I'm going to turn things over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Robert. I'm just thrilled to be here today with my fellow mountaineers. And I think the most important thing is to let our panelists introduce themselves first. So Emily Zeknois, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, happy to. Great to be here today. Excited to chat with you guys. So my name is Emily Zeknois. I am a fall 2020 graduate of the Integrated Marketing Communications Master's Program. My background really spans public relations, business development, events, and marketing, really focused on kind of healthcare and technology have been two sectors I'm really well versed in. Most recently, I was actually at a mergers and acquisitions firm specializing in lower middle market M&A for marketing, media, tech, and professional services businesses. Really working on their buy-side advisory team. So helping, investors, private equity, things like that actually purchase marketing, media, and tech businesses. So kind of an interesting way to bridge knowledge and technical expertise that I learned in my time in marketing roles with that business development, account management focus. But still working on the back end, doing a lot of our inbound, outbound marketing strategies. So you can never quite get me fully away from it.
I think that perspective of M&A in our world is going to be really interesting when we start talking about trends too. And I also like to introduce Professor Hugo Pérez, another one of my fellow instructors in the Reed College of Media.
Yes, hi everyone. Nice to be on the panel. I am a professor at the Reed College of Media. I teach digital storytelling and digital marketing coming up in this next year as the next courses. So excited to continue to be on the faculty. But in my other life, I am the chief marketing officer at a plant-based foods company called ZENB. We offer gluten-free food made with as much the whole plant as possible. We use yellow peas primarily right now. You can find us on Amazon at your local retailers. In my role as a chief marketing officer, I also wear the hat as a chief creative person there too. So I design packaging, which you might see behind me. I do all of our advertising, public relations, media, and I, have been doing this for a little while. Working in a variety of food companies, ad companies, media companies, and I happen to be an independent filmmaker on the side too, just for fun. So I love storytelling.
And I think I should also mention that Hugo's worked with some of the biggest brands in the US and globally too. So that perspective, I think, is going to be really, really helpful here today. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it off. And obviously, I think in talking, the three of us knew that we had to address the sort of the big topic in the room, and that is AI. What is going on with generative AI, with AI for marketing and communications? I don't know, Hugo, if you want to just kind of kick it off with some of your thoughts.
Yeah, what an exciting time to live in as a marketer, as a storyteller, as a brand builder for any of us. Technology has opened up the doors for us to do so much. And AI is kind of trying to leapfrog that even faster. Recently, I was at a presentation with Google where they categorize the evolution in what's happening in terms of technology in three shifts. We first had that shift with the internet coming online, and all of us shifted to do all this internet marketing. And then mobile was the second shift where we were able to hone it down. And now AI is introducing a third shift where it's giving us the ability to kind of let technology help us in the process of developing. So it's an exciting time to be exposed to this technology and be able to use it. It's also a time for us as storytellers, as marketers, as brand builders to be cautious, to take a step back and recognize the difference between a tool and a complete new way of doing marketing. And for me, and I know in talking with my colleagues here, we all see AI as a great tool that needs to be harnessed and used, but it has a lot of great potential.
I wonder what Emily's seeing kind of from the M&A perspective on this. Are AI marketing companies just at the top of the list when the VCs are looking around for deals?
Yeah, I think the big kind of piece here is the questions that's being asked is actually how are, we want to know how a target or how a company we're looking to acquire is actually training their people and how they're utilizing and integrating AI into the procedure and the process that's already been proven and built. A lot of these marketing firms, they're already having such great success. It's how do you continue that success and utilize the new tools and trends to continue to see an upward trend and obviously your financials and the performance and the brand reputation of a firm here. So whether it's about, actually acquiring companies that are only AI marketing, I would say no, it's more about how are already great companies utilizing and helping their staff build these toolkits with AI tools at the end of the day.
Sure. I also want to mention to all the people viewing that you're welcome to leave questions in the chat or comments in the chat, and we'll address those as we go on. I think that Hugo's both of your points about AI being a tool is really important, and also that it's an efficiency booster. I know in communications that is primarily how I'm using it. But I wanted to ask maybe one or both of you, where do you think the problem may lie? Is it in security, privacy? Is it in an overdependence on these tools? What are the things we have to watch out for in 2024?
Well, I think a couple of quick thoughts on that. I'm a big proponent of the use of AI as an idea generator booster. The challenge becomes when it is used as a crutch to be the only part that's created. If we understand where AI is working, particularly in generative AI right now, which is all the rage, text-based idea generation, it's drawing from sources that exist and compiling new ideas together. The challenge in that is that if you're not careful, you might be using something that's already being used somewhere else that hasn't been vetted, that isn't accurate. There's plenty of stories that we've heard about AI kind of making stuff up. Recently, I had a set of copy that was developed for a product that we were developing, and the AI description that was there made up what it felt were good ideas for this product. None of it was validated. None of it was accurate. So the challenge is making sure that we're using it to help us get started, but that we're aware of the limitations of it and are vetting it to make sure that there's accuracy and that we're not infringing on existing IP or ideas.
Yeah, going on that too, I would also say one big flaw of AI is that it can have a human experience. We're in a marketing environment where obviously authenticity, personalization, and being an individual in general is critical. You can't have the same brand voice as another brand. You need to stand out. You need to resonate with your audience. AI, you can give them a profile of your target, but it doesn't mean that it understands what that person thinks, feels, or what it's like to be a human, to have those interactions and to read that messaging. You can say to AI, write this and target a Gen Z audience. And as someone who's a Gen Z, I've read some of those and like, what is this? It's not speaking language. It doesn't know what it's like to be me. So I always think too, you need to go back and read what it's pushing out there. Say, does this resonate with our brand voice? And does this resonate with the audience? I also think it's a really great time saver for actually synthesizing data and finding like patterns and insights in data. I think moving into 2024, it could be more of a data-driven tool, where right now I think it's definitely being used for content and copy as, again, just a fact, not really a fact checker, but more of a grammatic checker, or giving you that rough first draft for us to edit, as I know we were talking about before. But I think there is opportunity to use it to save time. If you're looking at huge data sets, there's hidden insights there that could be the key to your next big marketing campaign. It could take you 3 hours to look through, or you could pop it in a system and it'll find those trends and patterns for you.
I was
Fully
just
agree.
reading, I was going to read a comment really quick, Ugo, that from Jim Kent that says, "We have an AI policy. Assume every claim is a hallucination unless you can prove otherwise." I really like that.
Love it. Love that. Yeah, I was going to add to the conversation here a little bit along the lines of what Emily said. AI can never replace the heart and soul of what a brand stands for or what a person stands for. So it'll give you stuff, but it can't really come up with that creative connection. So my challenge to my fellow marketers, branders, builders out there is use it for what it's meant to do, to simplify, to help you get started. But remember that you are the one that brings the heart and soul to whatever it is that you're working on.
I think that we're talking a lot about content, and that's important, but there are other, there are multimodal aspects to AI. Ugo, how are you seeing AI kind of boost efficiency in the video world? Are you using some of those tools quite a bit in your work, or?
As a filmmaker, that's where I'm most sensitive in terms of the use of AI, because I still don't like the idea of something else creating that visual story. That could be a personal thing, because that's what I built my career on, is building those visual stories. From a social media content point of view, though, it does help a little bit with finding imagery and stuff that we can use and creating captions and stuff like that. But I also am very sensitive to that too, because again, like I said, it draws from existing material. So we have to be very careful not to use something that feels repurposed or that could be infringing on somewhere else. I work in the food space, and right now, on any given day, there's about 100 billion, on any given year, there's about 100 billion searches for content on food. So there's a lot of content that exists there. So if I'm using AI to create for me, I have to be really cognizant of where it's coming from and how it's being vetted to protect myself. But, it does give us some idea generators, idea starters, and particularly for copy, when we're doing captions and stuff for social, it's a speed builder.
Okay. I know that I work a lot in healthcare communications, where we're constantly trying to message people to do things that are better for their health. And those types of messages have to be extremely well personalized. They have to be very targeted to the unique individual and where they're at. In the old days, not in the old days, but traditionally we would message to the condition, and now we're trying to message kind of in a whole health way, and AI helps with that, with data that really helps us kind of create messages almost to an audience of one. But Emily, you're in inbound, outbound, and what do you see? Where is AI, do you think, really going to help with some of the work that you do?
I definitely think one thing to touch on is A/B testing. When you're doing like an email marketing campaign and you just want to see, you can ask AI, I created this one version, I really like it, but let's try another one. So you can ask it, rewrite this marketing email. And I always think it's great to over communicate with your AI, which is funny because you should be doing that with your coworkers as well. Over communicate, I want you to write a second version of this email for a blank company targeting a blank audience, whatever that may be. And then you can A/B test. And, sometimes maybe certain subject lines that it comes up with, or can give you 3 different versions of your subject line. It gives you opportunities to just do better marketing in a sense where you have more options very quickly. I would say definitely that. And then really, I go back to the data. I really do use it a lot for doing summaries and outlines of like what a piece means, or even asking it, what's the sentiment of this message from, maybe an inbound inquiry. If you're kind of having a hard time, maybe it's a very long message, just synthesizing what were the main points or questions. It can also help you too with RFPs, which I think is really important. Say you get an RFP brief from somebody and they're like, we want your proposal. You should 100% read the entire thing. So again, going back to that human fact checking, but popping it in AI and saying, what are the main points or main keywords here, I think is really critical for you to reflect those two in the content you're creating. So again, kind of have it do the heavy work for you and then have the human put the heart behind it.
And speaking of keywords, Emily, in terms of SEO, are you feeling like it's going to be used for SEO quite a bit more in the future, or is that overhyped?
That is a really good question. And I just did a website optimization project a couple months ago, and I was using it to help me with different keywords when we were thinking about, blogging and things like that. My worry is the landscape for SEO changes so rapidly, so quickly. I think it's going to be a tool. I don't think it'll be the end all be all, because you're going to have to update the AI systems as much as you're updating, the algorithms updating. So it's really kind of a cat and mouse game there. I think, again, use it as a tool, but you need to do your own due diligence of what is actually working in SEO right now, because I think it changes every 2 months.
So it's not replacing SEMrush anytime soon.
Absolutely not.
Okay. When you were talking about keywords and we were talking about search, it made me think of TikTok, since TikTok just recently became our top search engine in the world, if people have seen those statistics. And that leads me to video, which is really Hugo's world. And I think one of the notes that Hugo had sent us when we were talking about this panel is video dominance continues. And I love that. Do you want to say more about how video is going to evolve in 2024, Hugo?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that point up. It's a reality of life. It makes me a little bit sad, because I think we should be the kind of people that want to read, that want to engage, that want to dialogue. But the rise of digital in our world has meant the ease of just engaging with video content. And TikTok has cemented the fact that people like really short content and finding out their information. Another stat that I saw just this morning was that Gen Z particularly gets the majority of their news from TikTok. And the majority of that news has been proven to be factually incorrect. So it's scary, it's challenging, it's opportunity. So I think video will continue to be a part of who we are and what we're doing, because it's just so easy. And because of the rise of the mobile phone, everyone can be a video creator at some level. And so it makes the speed and the ease of pushing video content out into the world so much easier, which again comes back to us as marketers and brand builders. We have to be the kind of people that are the gatekeepers and shapers to make sure we're doing stuff that's substantive and valuable.
What are you seeing in terms of YouTube Shorts versus TikTok, or is it even an either or? Do you see them as complementing each other, or are they competing? What's going on with that?
Well, I think YouTube will tell you that they're trying to be competitive and be the ones that are dominant. They're not quite there yet. So I know in our company, we use them both as complementary. We're hitting different audiences we're seeing at the current moment. So we use video in as many different channels as possible, with modifications to match what those channels are and who those audiences are, which is an exciting part about video today too. I mentioned how quickly and easily you can do so. It goes back a little bit to who your storyteller is. If you can find people on your team that can tell the story, it doesn't have to be a full-blown Hollywood production, but it should always be done with quality and care for the brand or whomever you're representing, to make sure that it's in the aesthetic, in the brand, in the voice, in the feel that you want to represent what it is that you're representing.
And I know in the world of B2B where I live, we're doing a lot of mixed media types of things where press releases might have a video component to go out with it. So it's not always either or, content or, but to your point, I agree that the visual seems to be the stickiest these days. Emily, did you have some points on this, or did you, what do you think we're going to see that we haven't seen before?
I think something we're seeing this already, but I think something we're going to see increase is the utilization of live streams for social commerce on TikTok. TikTok Shop obviously was really taken off this year. I know they also, and I need to do more research on this, and I would recommend others do as well. They have like a TikTok Shop program where they're working with specific brands and marketing agencies to further build out the use of TikTok as a shopping platform. So I think that'll, with them investing time and a community into this, I think that's really going to take off over the next year. I also when I think about the fact that TikTok is kind of like our main search engine right now, I like to think about, I guess it was like 5-ish years ago, when I feel like you could almost say the same thing, maybe a little longer, about Pinterest. People were going for quick information on Pinterest and quick answers. Now they're going to TikTok. I think the lesson from Pinterest is that Pinterest most of the time linked out to somewhere else and gave you another source. How is TikTok going to reflect that same method to convert sales and to actually see conversions, whether that be through TikTok Shop or you're linking out to a different website? I also think, and I know I have this later on my list and I've been harping on it, this will play into affiliate marketing with a lot of the like things in videos, and just in general social commerce. But I think TikTok's going to be a huge player in actually driving sales for different brands, especially small brands.
And we actually have a question that I think is really relevant from Sam in our audience group. For those of us whose audiences are not on TikTok, how can we apply these lessons to our content?
Yeah,
really good question.
I think that's an excellent question. Let me make a quick point about TikTok and then evolve it into an answer for that. The biggest challenge with TikTok right now is how they measure the value to the brands. I was at TikTok headquarters a few weeks ago where we were talking about this, and they have not built out enough of a platform for marketers to really be able to analyze that data. So it is growing, it is engaging people. TikTok hasn't figured it out yet on how to make it valuable for the marketers. And they're aware of that and they're trying to fix it, but those two don't match right now. And so my advice to Sam and others is don't jump just because it's a shiny tool. You know, you got to be true to who your brand is and go where your brand feels most resonant with your audience. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have a TikTok presence. I am an advocate of claiming a stake in every channel possible and holding on to that so you can have your avatar and your name brand reserved until you feel that there's a point that you should use it, shouldn't use it, or whatever. We sat on our TikTok name for about 7 months, analyzing the space until we were ready. What that allowed us to do was bank content as well. And then when we were ready, when we found that there was an intersection, then we were able to jump in. But now we had all this content ready, the strategy ready, and then we were able to be very engaged. We had our FAQs, we had everything that we needed to roll. We just didn't jump because it was there. Same thing when with any new channel that comes on. When Threads came on, we came on Threads within 24 hours. We were up on Threads and had content going. But then we took a pause and a breath, and we're like, let's analyze how this channel works. Let's figure out what's the interaction. And we have been using a lot of video content on Threads because that seems to work out. But the audience is different. So again, it's just taking that pause and recognizing what the channels do, who they're reaching, and how it fits in with your brand.
And I think the thing that I've learned from TikTok, because a lot of my clients are not, they're not TikTok. It's not a channel that they're going to have a lot of content to put on. But the thing that I've learned is that it's really about, I think people really want to know who these influencers or who these CEOs are as people. Even the little habits, helps us connect to people. And I think that's a really big, powerful piece of TikTok, is that we feel more connected because we're seeing somebody do something that we might do, make their coffee or make a huge mistake with their makeup, for lack of a better word. Although I will also say that I have a couple of management consulting clients, and I started to do some searches on TikTok and started to see a lot of those people kind of coming into that world, which you wouldn't really expect from like a former Deloitte person. We have a question here. Do we have security concerns with TikTok?
Ultimately, I think
go ahead, Emily. Go ahead.
I think, there is a looming concern just around, in general, the actual legal implications and things like that are going behind the scenes with TikTok, but also security concerns in general. It's thinking strategically about the content that you're putting out there for the brand that you're representing. I think it doesn't matter if you're utilizing TikTok, if you're utilizing a Google search ad, you always have to be thinking about the implications of what could this turn into and how can we handle this. From my events background, every single event I've really worked on large scale, you have a risk plan. I think that you don't have to just be in event marketing to have a risk plan. I think if you're a social marketer, you should have a risk plan. If you're a content marketer, you should have a risk plan. There's security concerns working in all forms of digital marketing. So yes, are there security concerns? 100%, but it's not just because it's TikTok. I think it's any kind of digital marketing platform. You should always be ready to respond to a crisis.
Can you say a little bit more, Emily, about what a risk plan looks like? Because I've heard that, what you just said, quite a bit more too. And I think that's kind of an evolving trend as well.
I think you need to have an understanding about the core, what your actual brand messaging is, not just the campaign slogans that you're utilizing. Going back to you have to come back to, at the center of your risk plan, who are we at our core and what is the one message we want to drive home regardless of what we're saying and how we're saying it. I think you want to have in your risk plan identified who needs to be involved in all decision making. That's going to happen very quickly, because when danger strikes digitally in 32 seconds. So it's understanding what at the core you're trying to communicate, or were you trying to communicate? Who is going to make the final decision on what is going to be a response to something? And then even sitting back once you have to enact a risk plan and say, do we actually have to enact this? Should we address this or should we not? And ultimately, sometimes that's part of the risk plan decision making is this is not good, but is it bad enough where we're going to enact a risk plan, or do we just continue to just a tough decision, especially something from working in PR, which is something I experienced as a young professional as an experience. You have to sometimes sit back and say, we're going to let this one go, which is a really interesting and difficult challenge.
And Melissa was asking how a risk plan would differentiate from or be different from a crisis comms plan. And to me, a crisis comms plan is a much more comprehensive, across the board plan for something that would impact your organization or a leader or something like that. Whereas risk plans are, they align a lot more with kind of integrated comms plans, which are much more granular, smaller, and look at what the potential risks are that may or may not turn into a crisis. But I love that idea. Hugo, did you have more to say? We also had a question here, Hugo, that maybe you can also help us address, which I think goes to this risk plan idea, which is that Jim had asked about ChatGPT, and there doesn't seem to be a way to address errors that it spits out, and that would include using video that isn't correctly attributed. Is it possible to manage those errors, and how would we do that?
Yeah, from the risk plan idea, Emily, spot on guidance there. But I don't think that only applies to TikTok. That applies to any channel, anywhere that you're on. So I know that there's a rumbling of the Chinese ownership of TikTok making it more risk. All channels are risk averse because you're putting information out there publicly. So that's how I would address that. And then in terms of correcting errors, this is again where I say you have to manage the content that you get from whatever source you get. You should never take any kind of AI content and automatically just turn it around and use it. Particularly if there's a sensitivity issue, if you're working in a regulated space, you want to make sure that you're following the regulations and the guidelines that are out there. If you're working in, even in the non-regulated spaces, you're representing your brand, your company, your voice. You don't just want to put anything out there without validating where that information is coming from. So my solution to that is don't just take that content and 5 seconds later plop it on somewhere publicly. Do a little bit of vetting.
Okay. I want to pivot a little bit here because, as I mentioned, Emily had brought up a couple of points that I haven't seen in some of the trends, blogs and predictions for 2024. And the first one was account-based marketing, which is so different for those of us who are lead gen oriented and funnel oriented. Account-based marketing can just seem, what the heck is that? Do you want to kind of give us a little bit more description of what you see happening with that in the next year or so?
Yeah, something that I think is really important to understand is that I feel like a lot of people will be like, oh, we're interested in doing like a lead generation campaign, but then asking them like, what does lead generation mean to you? Does it mean like cold calling outbound, getting as many people in, or does it mean ABM, which I feel like is a more focused strategy? So focusing more on fostering relationships and moving quality leads down the pipeline and down the funnel, rather than lead generation, I think is now becoming kind of, for lack of a better word, like a spray and pray approach. So you're getting I always say you're getting resonance, it's getting out there, versus resonance, which is ABM. So you're actually connecting with people, they're hearing your message and they're going down the funnel that way, versus lead gen where there's resonance, people know the name, and then they're going down the funnel because they're curious about what this is about, versus they've been educated and now they're interested. I think we'll see a lot more people kind of move to this inverted pyramid where you go from kind of, small focus down to cross-selling and upselling. I mean, losing a client costs you more, then it's a huge loss. So you'd rather foster relationships, cross-sell and build stronger relationships with a small subset, because you'll see higher return in the future likely, than have 600 kind of loose, low budget clients who can churn year over year. Also, just from, kind of financial perspective and M&A and things like that, you would rather see, if I was an investor or something like that, that you have strong relationships and low client churn, versus we had 10 million clients last year, but none of them are signing on with us again this year.
And I think it also goes to the definition of client. And typically, someone was asking about ABM, and typically, when we're just talking about traditional lead gen or, a Salesforce funnel, that client is that one person who had one interest or something like that, whereas ABM talks about, it's much more proactive, I would say, talks about how do we build that relationship with this organization that could give us sustainable revenue for years to come. And it's much more, you have to be, like I said, more patient, but it's much more lucrative in the long run. Did you have a comment on that, Hugo, or anything you wanted to say?
Aligned. I think there are some industries where you want to get that broader base set of customers. You're just looking to just fill the trough as much as possible. But with the personalization that's possible right now, I'm a big believer in the account-based marketing approach, where you can make it more meaningful and worthwhile for the long term.
Yeah. It's definitely big for B2B, especially B2B SaaS and things like that, where I think there's a lot of platforms and a lot of players in the B2B SaaS space. So you need to focus on honing down your key pillar accounts, growing them, cross-selling, because they also become referral sources. So that's kind of the other thing that comes out of ABM and strong relationships, is that now you have a word of mouth strategy because you've done quality work and invested the time, team, and resources into those, rather than, we had a bunch of people come through us and they're not coming back, or they're not referring their colleagues or their network and connections. And ultimately, community is key.
And I think that one of the trends that I'm just seeing as well is, as companies and B2B shifts to more of an ABM approach, that need for really deep content that is not sales based, that doesn't have heavy call to action, but is more factual and really meant to inform and produce almost news type information that those potential clients can use. The demand for that is going up exponentially, and that I think is very interesting to see. The other piece in B2B that I think is really interesting and is exploding is affiliate marketing within B2B. And that's being driven by some of the AI tools like Jasper and Writesonic, who have huge affiliate programs. I was looking in, I think at the end of 2023, and this is overall, we're going to have affiliate marketing will generate $13 billion as an industry. And the proportion of that that is B2B, I think is just going to continue to grow. I don't know, Hugo, if you're seeing more in the B2B affiliate marketing world, or if you want to kind of tap on that really quickly.
I work more B2C than B2B. I do some B2B as well, but I see it everywhere, where everyone is a part of the story at some level and getting a piece. I think it goes back to the connectivity that we're all experiencing, because everyone becomes a spokesperson. Everyone is a brand builder on their own. There's ways to tap into those micro audiences, which makes affiliate marketing opportunities really exciting and inevitable in some ways. To me, it's a matter of qualifying who you're working with in those ways to make sure that it's something that's additive and supportive of your business goals, and not just something that feels like a pay for just reach or mindless sales that don't come back to your brand.
Speaking of risk, I think about it, and I used to do a lot of B2C as well, and we'd work with celebrities and influencers, and those people are people, and they're fallible. and understanding who these influencers are. And it's not just a matter of having a huge following. They have to align with your brand. They have to be reliable and responsible. And sometimes you want to kind of sit and watch them for a while before you actually, if you're thinking about doing affiliate marketing for your own brand, or if you're going to be using an affiliate, I think it's somewhere where that risk plan comes into play. But I know, Emily, you have a lot of things to say about this, so I'm going to throw it to you.
I think one thing that's really interesting about affiliate marketing, especially moving into 2024, is how much more aware of affiliate marketing, even if they don't know that's what it's called, that consumers are. I think a lot of people are taking it upon themselves to become, in a sense, kind of not career, but maybe side hustle affiliate marketers. Platforms like Amazon have made it so much more accessible to just grab an affiliate link from their website, and you can just paste that anywhere as a regular consumer and get a small percentage of commission. I don't know if it's just because I work in marketing that my entire TikTok feed, like every 4 scrolls, is someone talking about an affiliate link or a product, or people talking about how they're doing affiliate marketing on the side and things like that. But I think it's going to take off because people also are going to be doing it on their own because they see it as a way to earn passive income or to take on a new challenge or something like that. In the B2B space, I think something that's going to be really critical is really paying attention to the return metrics that you're getting. We're moving into a world, and we have been already, we're already in this environment, but even more so now. It's not as much about impressions anymore. I don't think we're even seeing like big PR agencies put out, we had 100 million impressions on this post. It's the clicks and it's the conversions at the end of the day. It's great, again, to have resonance, but are you having resonance? Sorry, that's my big kind of phrase is, yes, you can get your message out there, but what are the metrics behind it? So I think you'll see those who are, as B2B, they invest more money into affiliate marketing, they're going to be demanding very high quality metrics. So if you're facilitating B2B affiliate campaigns, I think being really, really strategic about when you pull analytics, how you present those analytics, and making sure that those analytics are performing is going to be key to winning business in affiliate marketing and keeping clients.
Emily, do you have any predictions about, say, in new AI tools or something, like what portion of their revenue over the next 2 to 3 years do you think will be affiliate marketing? Is that going to be one of the main streams of revenue for many of these products moving forward?
That's definitely difficult to say. I think it's really just taken off, and especially the B2B space, that I would say give us another year or two and we'll have a better idea of how people are investing. I think this is going to be a pilot year. I think people are going to invest a significant amount of their budget into affiliate marketing. And then it depends on how the landscape of just the consumer environment and, the B2B market shakes out, but also how good was your strategy? And do you need to keep refining? If you don't have someone on staff or a good marketing agency, affiliate marketing agency behind you who's doing quality work, then there's no need to increase your budget if it's working for the entirety of the B2B sector. I think it'll be brand dependent, and I think it depends on the quality of work and how you invest time into learning about B2B and how you're going to execute that.
And that kind of leads me, as we're talking about channels and we're talking about how B2C is using affiliates versus B2B using affiliates. I read a stat that said that by 2026, social commerce will reach 2.9 trillion. Some people are saying it will go over 3 trillion. And so we can't ignore this trend, and we can't not think about it. And even if we don't think our audiences are in any other social channel other than LinkedIn, we have to kind of address it as part of our strategy in the next year. So I guess I'm going to start with Hugo and give me your thoughts on social commerce. How are your clients, or how is your company using it? How have your clients viewed it as part of a strategy moving forward?
Yeah, I would start though by saying, if something is generating multiple trillions, is it a trend or is it a fact? It is.
Right.
It's here. It's not trending. It's arrived. The whole social commerce trend works because people continue to seek convenience. They want speed of opportunity, and so it behooves us as people that are out there trying to sell whatever to not fight with what the people want and figure out the best ways. So we're looking constantly at how do we add in a simplified approach to getting to the product. Funny enough, though, sometimes you take a step back. Any of us that have studied user experience would tell you you want the least amount of clicks to get to when you want to sell a product or get them to engage with a product. But one of the things that's coming out as more people are engaging on social channels, and they want a little education. They want to, and that education doesn't necessarily mean I want you to tell me how the product is made, although that does come out. Sometimes they want a little bit of understanding of who is this company? Why should I care about you? They want to engage almost like a human being. They want a relationship kind of understanding. So all that is to say, it's taking the tools that are available, taking the channels that are available, and designing them in such a way that it's intuitive, that it's simple, but that it allows the user to go as deep as they want or as simple as they want, and not fighting it. So we are trying to use buy buttons or learn more buttons together, and seeding them out in as many different ways as possible. So you might be reading a blog and it'll say buy now or learn more. You might be on a social post, buy now, learn more. We're giving you the tools. You make the choice how deep, how wide, how fast you want to move.
I want to ask, Hugo, I want to ask you a question before I jump to Emily, and that is, in your world, how much of your strategy for social commerce is driven by what the competitors are doing? Or are you trying to stay ahead, or are you trying to just keep up? Because it feels like every, because I think it's a trend, because right now I think it's still in the billions, it's growing like 20% every year. But what part does that play in your strategy?
I like to believe that I am a tip of the spear kind of marketer. So I'm doing and letting people follow behind. But I would be disingenuous if I didn't say I pay attention all the time to what's happening in my environment, because I need to see what's popping, what's working, what's not. We work very hard not to be Me Too or a copycat kind of marketer, but we want to see trends and we want to see what's resonating, and then we adapt or engage or follow up in the ways that are real for us. So, at two different levels, I'm working at it right now. From a digital perspective, I'm plugged in, and if you saw my feed, it's a hot mess of every brand that I care about, that I want to learn from. Some in my competitive space, many in my aspirational space that I want to just be learning from and see what cool stuff, even if I'm not selling in there. But I also do this in real time, in real life, IRL, as they say, and I walk the stores. And I walk all sorts of stores because I want to see, again, what's popping, what's resonating, how are people engaging, and trying to merge those two approaches to then come up with the strategies.
Great answer. Emily, what do you have to say about social commerce in the B2B world?
Yeah, I think B2B transcends B2B and B2C. I think a really key term that'll come up more is social proof. And that's the idea that, yes, you can stick a product on something like TikTok, but people want to see it in action. They want to see the before and the after. So depending on what what the product is, I think that'll become a really big tactic, is putting social proof out there that the product actually works. I feel like we see a lot of, that's big for health and wellness. I think it's a lot of, if you have a teeth whitener product, people don't just want to see someone standing there going, I love this teeth whitener. They want to say, 6 weeks ago, this is what I looked like, and now this 6 weeks later, I have this bright, pearly smile. I think we'll see a lot of those campaigns coming out for products that it's applicable to have, for lack of a better word, proof for.
Okay. So we have a couple of questions in the chat that I think are really good, and I'm going to combine them just for fun. Our audience wants to know how a business can prepare for some of these potential changes. And I know that the part of the answer in that is strategy, of course. And Christina also asked, from this trends, where do we see earned media fitting all this? So I don't know if you want to kind of answer one before the other or answer them together. In my world, of course, earned media is a very big part of what we do in terms of strategy. But Hugo, do you want to address that question? How do we get ready for this?
Yeah, I think it's a cultural thing for your business. I think your business needs to become the kind of business that's continually learning. Seminars like this are really important, but having sources of other information, articles and webinars and courses that you can take, I challenge everyone on our team to be constantly learning and constantly going out and finding some stuff out. And like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, it doesn't always have to be just in your industry. You should be cross learning because there's things that you can bring in that create freshness within your industry. So it's that culture of learning that's important to do that. And then, you know, if your company can afford to do this, is maybe dedicate a few people some time to be the beta testers, to go out there and try a little bit of something here and then bring back learnings. Our company meets together once a month as a global company where we share insights and learnings and things that we figured out and seen. And, you know, sometimes it does nothing. It's just, you know, learning, but sometimes it sparks an idea that no one would have thought of because we dedicated just a little bit of space for that. And then just to answer the earned media, I think earned media will always have a role. I hope it always has a role in there because that's the most unfiltered kind of endorsements that you can get. Where that earned media shows up is what's continuing to evolve. I'm a TV junkie. I used to work at NBC Network News, so I love watching the Today Show in the mornings, and I watched Lester Holt at NBC Nightly News, but those aren't the main sources of most media nowadays. So I also have to read 10,000 blogs, and I have to go on social channels, and I listen to podcasts, and I'm on magazines, and there's so much that you've got to just be aware of what's important to your audience.
I love what you said of it's got to be you've got to have the kind of business that's continually learning and cross learning.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of land on that for a minute. What do you think, Emily? How do we get ready, and how do we make sure that earned media is supporting the strategy as it needs to be?
I think kind of the first thing is redefining the idea of a popular term marketing playbook or marketing roadmap. And understanding that it is just a foundation. So you can do your strategy in Q4 of 2023. But if, you know, we're doing trends right now, we're chatting about trends and you never know what's going to happen. So being able to have this roadmap and playbook of this is how we're going to start out the year, but knowing that you're going to look at the results, you're going to look at the actual analytics, you're going to look at how things are shaking out as you move along and be open and willing to adapt. Be ready to say, not, you know, you don't have to say all the time, I'm wrong. It's just, you know, we learned this from that experience. You're never wrong. You're learning something and it's going to better your roadmap as you continue to go down. So having a plan 100%, but being flexible and open to adapt that plan based on what you're seeing as return and being able to make those data-driven decisions and open to that. I think it's important that, you know, again, you're looking at the metrics that matter. It's not always impressions are great, but also what are the conversions? What are the clicks? What are the open rates on that email? Being able to adapt. As for earned media, I think we've said it here. It's all about, you know, does it resonate with your brand? Does the brand that's, you know, putting information out about you, does that resonate with your brand? Does it align with your messaging? Being ready to have those conversations. Again, kind of going back to some of the idea of ABM. It's great to have news coverage on 1,000 different websites, but isn't it better if it's a really quality referral source for you or a really quality, you know, even just a really respected brand saying, hey, we love these guys because they provide this product or they do this work. Focusing on where you're going to see really lead gen from your earned media, making those relationships. But ultimately, at the end of the day, everything, both things I just touched on, it's about community and it's about collaboration. So whether that's internally just at your organization, your firm, or if it's, you know, going out and chatting with those in your network. So maybe I work more in B2B and Hugo works more in B2C. We should be collaborating regardless of if our audiences is different. It's just learning about new tactics and maybe something that didn't work for him. He saw low return is high return for me. I think constantly having conversations, you know, it's great to go on webinars and things like that, but a 10-minute coffee chat with somebody who works in the office next to you is just as valuable.
Right. I think too, in the mid 2000s, a lot of the buyers in the manufacturing world were starting to expect this Amazon-like experience. And even though we may be one industry may be B2C, those B2B buyers are still thinking like consumer buyers. They're still expecting personalization. They're still expecting that kind of a relationship with the brand. And what I also was hearing you say for earned media was that it's maybe the metrics are changing a little bit where we aren't so we aren't so in love with these vanity metrics of reach and impressions. We're really looking at how does it contribute to the overall funnel? How does it contribute to the overall goals of the organization? And what are the KPIs within earned media that are really meaningful today? Hugo, did you have another point that you wanted to make, or?
There's a little education sometimes that's needed with that guidance that Emily's giving, which is spot on, especially with the deep dive on the one channel or whatever. Depending on who you're working with, there are people that were raised in the business that just think only this channel works. And so when you say, but I'm going to give you this blog that's going to give me much more value, there's like a little dissonance that happens. I've seen people's eyes kind of go blank because they're like, what do you mean? So be prepared for the education that's going to be needed.
Right. We have a question too, and I think this goes to the idea that we don't lock and load strategies anymore. There are too many disruptions going on. I mean, when Emily first started doing predictions in 2019, she was making a comment before the call that one of her biggest predictions was that event-based marketing was going to be huge in 2020. And then of course, we got hit by the pandemic and that changed everything. I know for me, I often do strategy on a 3-month basis and review it every 3 months. So for smaller firms that might be left behind, how, a very small entrepreneur with maybe 4 employees doesn't have the time to be listening and absorbing all of this. How do you do that from a micro perspective if you're just trying to grow, you guys? Emily or Hugo, do you want to throw something in there?
I don't think anyone should feel like they're being left behind because it goes back to understanding who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. The terms used often, the shiny toy syndrome. Everyone feels like because it's glossy and shiny, I got to jump into that. But be brave and say, I am who I am. We are who we are. This is what matters to us, and focus on where you need to be. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't stop learning. All of us should always be learning, but you don't have to adopt everything that you hear or see in the space. Do what's relevant to your business. And every once in a while, you can stretch a little bit and do a little bit more and do a little bit more, but keep it true to who you are and have that brand bravery to be who you set out to be.
Be authentic, which is what we started with. Emily, any thoughts?
I think there's a misconception that every marketing media agency needs to be a full service agency. And I just don't think that's true. I think if you're an SEO shop and you're really good at SEO, but you're hearing everybody talk about influencer marketing, if your customers are coming to you, they're staying with you for a long tenure because you're amazing at SEO, you should be focused on continuing your learning in the vertical that you're specialized in and winning business in. So when we say things like we're like, oh, go out and learn and try new tactics and things like that, make sure it's in the swim lane that's generating revenue for you at the end of the day. There's no reason for you to go out there and be, sitting around super concerned about the state of influencer marketing when you're an SEO shop or you're an SEO
right.
shop. So I think, it's better to do high quality work for a small set of people than to do a little bit of everything for everyone and do it. That's kind of the extent of it. It's done.
Right. So again, authenticity and staying true to your brand and your brand mission, and maybe testing and learning from a few little things. I know for me, I try to set a goal that every quarter I'm going to try something different, even if it's very small, just one little thing, because I'm a solo practice. And yes, Carol had a question about this. This is being recorded and we will have this available to everyone. So we've got about, a few minutes left. I'm gonna throw out a question that I want each of you to answer. Mm-hmm. And I want you to answer the question: if a brand doesn't focus on X, they could be left behind. Hugo, what would you say?
Oh, wow. I would not answer that you have to learn about a channel or a technology or whatever. I would say if a brand doesn't focus on knowing who they are and knowing who their audience is, that's when they'll be left behind. All these things that we've talked about today are all tools in the quiver that you're going to pull from depending on what you're doing. But if you don't know who you are and who you're reaching, that's when you're left behind.
Yeah. Emily?
I think that's honestly the perfect way to answer this. I think if a brand doesn't focus on results then you're going to be left behind. It's all about, knowing what your destination is and then creating the roadmap and adapting the roadmap and, taking a different turn because the road's closed, whatever that may be. It's knowing where you're going and then figuring out how to get there in a way that's authentic and, drives results and gets you to the end point. So know where you're going.
Know who you are, who your audience is, and know where you're going or where you want to go. And to me, I always say, have big goals. It's okay if you don't always meet them, but having big goals for me is always a better idea than trying to be realistic, particularly if you're not showing those goals to a client, right?
I like the term, Barney, audacious. I like to dream audaciously for whatever I'm doing. And then, let's see where we get. But you're only going to get this little bit if you only dream this little bit. Who knows what you can get?
Well, we've got a couple extra minutes. There was a question about, as we kind of wrap it up, any suggestions for worthwhile courses to take? Of course, I need to mention the WVU Reed College of Media has a great master's program and also certificate programs. AMA is another organization that I like. Do either of you focus on any other places that you like to take classes or to find resources?
LinkedIn has a series of training seminars and certificate programs that are available that are really worthwhile and really easy to do. And the cool thing on those is whenever you finish them, you get a designation on your LinkedIn profile that goes out to the world, which is great. And I've also found Google has a bunch of training, webinars, seminars, trainings that they make available as well.
Yeah.
Emily?
Yeah, LinkedIn, definitely a great resource. I've definitely used that before. I mean, HubSpot Academy, if you're specializing HubSpot, I did the entire thing. It was great. It definitely helps you too with just the platform in general. I would say also, I mean, I'm an IMC grad, so I can also brag about that. It definitely, I mean, it gave you the foundation too, and it gives you the ability to also go out and speak intelligently about the field that you're entering, which then it opens doors for you and allows you to learn from other people. I would say best place to learn though is from those who have different backgrounds and then experiences than yourself. Ultimately, I think it's good to go out and talk to people who aren't in your exact vertical, who aren't in your exact industry, or who maybe have a different career title than something you ever considered. I think you'll learn more about what's out there and what opportunities are available, one for the brand and the campaigns you're working on too, and then for your professional development.
Well, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. I know we just have a couple minutes left. I know I learned a ton from this conversation, and I hope everybody watching did too. I'm going to throw it back to Robert, Hugo, and Emily. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed your perspectives. And follow at News Dude. Emily, do you want to throw anything out there?
Find me on LinkedIn. This is my full name. So
same here. Find me on LinkedIn and connect. So thanks to everyone that's attended, and thanks to our panelists today. So
thank you all. Amazing.